Let's talk about medical gaslighting and why it cuts so deep. So, when we name it, when we acknowledge it and understand it, we can start to take back some of the power that it stole from us. So, medical gaslighting is when a provider minimizes, dismisses, or outright ignores your symptoms. It's when someone in a position of authority, someone that you are supposed to trust, someone you are supposed to have faith in, makes you feel like your lived experience doesn't count unless it fits into their chart. It can sound like them saying, you're just anxious, or you're too young for that, or your labs look fine, they look normal, or maybe try sleeping more, or drink more water. And of course, these things are very important, drinking more water and getting more sleep. But this is dismissing how you feel, right? This is dismissing you listening to your body. But you don't feel normal, right? And deep down, you know something's off. So gaslighting doesn't always sound malicious, right? Sometimes it can be really subtle. It can be them raising an eyebrow or a rushed appointment or maybe a tone that makes you shrink even before they speak. And because we're often socialized, especially as women, to defer to authority, we question ourselves instead of the system. And this isn't just frustrating, right? It is traumatizing. Why? Because being dismissed by someone you trust, especially in a position of authority, and especially when you are vulnerable, doesn't just hurt your feelings. It creates a rupture in your ability to feel safe in your own body. So let's break that down today. When you're chronically unwell, your nervous system is already working overtime. Add in those repeated medical invalidations, and your stress response gets locked into that high alert survival mode where it is constantly scanning for the next threat, even if it's just a routine checkup. And that state, that sympathetic activation, that fight or flight, it is exhausting, right? So if it goes on too long, you can end up in a freeze state. And your body feels numb, you dissociate, you start to shut down and to isolate. And maybe you smile politely, but you're shrinking inside. And over time, your inner voice, the one that used to say, hey, something's not right here, starts to get quieter. You stop trusting it. You stop listening. Not because it was wrong, but because no one else listened. And that can feel like one of the deepest betrayals of all. Not that your body is struggling, but that no one believed it was. So let's pause here for a moment. We're going to take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and say, I am allowed to believe in myself. If you've ever left an appointment and you felt smaller, you felt foggier, you felt more hopeless, you are not imagining it, and you're not alone. So let's talk about what happens inside of your body when you get dismissed over and over and over again, because your body doesn't just get over it. It adapts. That's what it's good at. That's what it's created for. So let's say that you go in and you have a symptom, whether it's fatigue, it's bloating, palpitations, maybe some joint pain, and your doctor says, oh, it's probably just stress. Or worse, they say it's all in your head. And even if that part of you knows that they're wrong, another part of you might go quiet. And then you start scanning your body differently. And instead of asking, well, what's going on here, with a sense of curiosity, you start saying, well, am I overreacting? And there's a lot of fear and anxiety with it too. You probably feel a symptom coming on, and then instead of addressing it, you overanalyze it. Then you try to hide it, and then you invalidate it before someone else can. And this is a self-protective behavior, and it makes a lot of sense. Your nervous system is in an effort to keep you emotionally safe, right? And in that effort, it might start filtering information before it even reaches your conscious mind. Maybe you ignore symptoms, you over-monitor them, or you feel confused about what's real and what's imagined. And that's what trauma does. It fragments reality and fragments your clarity. So here's an example. I had a client who had been to multiple different doctors for debilitating fatigue. And one told her to sleep more, one said it was postpartum, one said her iron levels were normal for her age, and one said there's nothing wrong with you. And by the time she came to me, she didn't even trust that she was tired. She was gaslighting herself at that point. And she literally, in the call with me, would say, well, maybe I'm just lazy, or I don't know, it might just all be in my head. Maybe I just need to push through. But when I asked her to describe that fatigue and what it felt like in her body, she started crying. And that's because she hadn't done that in years. She hadn't listened to her body. She had only questioned it with anxiety. And that's what medical gaslighting does. It teaches you to override the signals in order to be believed. And ironically, the more that we do that, the more disconnected and the more dysregulated our bodies become. Here are a few somatic signs, which are physical body symptoms, that your nervous system is holding on to medical trauma. Your breathing gets shallow as soon as you sit in a waiting room. Maybe you are clenching your jaw when you're talking about your health, or your leg is shaking, or your stomach gets tight when you try to advocate and stand up for yourself. Maybe you feel frozen and dissociated during your appointments. And those physical cues are your body saying, hey, I remember what happened last time and I'm still holding on to that. But the same nervous system that protected you is also the one that can lead you back to trust. And with the right tools, with gentleness, with safety, and one breath at a time, it can help. So if you're up for it, go ahead and think about the last appointment you went to and ask yourself, where do I feel tight or where do I feel small when I think about that last appointment? And sit with it for a moment. What physical symptoms arise? What emotions come up for you? And instead of judging that, can you just notice? Because that right there, that moment of noticing without judgment, that's a piece of your power coming back. And let's be real, it would be really nice if that self-trust just snapped back into place the moment we decided to heal, right? But if you've ever tried to just trust your body again after being dismissed, you already know it doesn't work like that. Because trust doesn't rebuild through intention alone. It rebuilds through experience, through repeated experience, right? We want consistency. Our nervous system wants safety. And when it comes to your body, especially after being repeatedly gaslit, that rebuilding has to start small. So let's look at what is actually going on under the surface. After enough invalidating experiences, you may have internal beliefs that sound like, well, maybe I'm exaggerating, or I can't trust my own judgment. If I speak up, I'll get dismissed. And here's what makes it more complicated. You may believe both that your body is trying to tell you something and that you're probably wrong about it. And that tug of war, that back and forth, that chaos is learned self-doubt. And it doesn't just show up in big moments like a diagnosis conversation. It shows up in the everyday. So you feel a symptom coming on and then you immediately question it. You think about going to a new doctor and then you feel your stomach drop. You try to advocate for yourself. Your voice gets small, not because you're weak, but because your nervous system remembers exactly what happened the last time. And there's also a deep identity conflict that can come from this. You know that you're sick. You know that you don't feel well, but you don't want to be seen as dramatic, difficult, or too much. And so you quiet yourself. You present your symptoms neatly and you smile, you over-explain, you apologize. And if you do get brave enough to share, maybe with a friend, maybe online, and someone doesn't respond the way you hoped, you spiral. Because the more you've been dismissed, the more you crave that validation, but the more terrified you become of seeking it. It's like walking a tightrope. You want those answers, but you also don't want to be hurt again. So you might delay appointments. You might downplay symptoms. You look for reassurance everywhere except within yourself. And this is not your fault. This is what happens when your body's intelligence has been consistently ignored or pathologized. So here's a soft reframe that you can use to hold on to this as we move forward. Your body isn't the enemy. It is trying to speak in a language that you weren't taught to understand. But that language can be learned. Again, not all at once, but through consistency. So, now that we understand why it's hard to trust our bodies again, what do we do about it? So the short version is you don't force that trust. You create the conditions where it becomes possible again. So that means slowing down. It means tuning in. And most importantly, it means feeling safe enough to listen. Because you cannot rebuild trust in a state of fear. Your nervous system absolutely won't let you. It's like trying to rebuild a house during a hurricane. So first we have to start by settling the storm or waiting for the storm to settle. So let's walk through a practice that is designed to gently help you reconnect with your body one moment at a time. And there's 5 parts. Each one is pretty simple, but very powerful when practiced together and consistently. So we start by noticing when that voice of self-doubt shows up. So maybe you feel a headache coming on and you instantly think, well, am I being dramatic? Is this really a migraine, or is it just I need some water, I'm dehydrated? Or maybe you cancel plans and then you feel guilty wondering, well, am I overreacting? And that's your cue. Pause right there and say to yourself gently, this is a self-doubt moment. Just name it. That acknowledgement alone is huge because naming interrupts that spiral that you're in. And then the next step is to breathe. So the simplest healing breath that we can do is a physiological sigh. So you inhale twice and then exhale longer than you inhale, like this. And you don't have to do it perfectly every time, but this type of breath work is designed to signal to the nervous system, I'm not in danger anymore. I can relax. And it helps turn off that survival mode, that sympathetic response. And now that you've gotten grounded, you've done the breath work, ask yourself, what might this sensation or this symptom or this feeling be trying to tell me? Get curious about it. Don't ask what's wrong with me, how do I fix this? Start with gentle curiosity. Like you would ask a child, well, what do you need right now? This opens a whole different dialogue with your body, and it is based on listening rather than judgment. Then we listen, right? Pick one area of your body that feels off. You can scan from head to toe really quickly and just pick one area. Maybe your chest is tight, maybe your stomach is fluttering, maybe you're having some palpitations or your jaw feels tense. Place your hand there for a moment if you can, and just tell your body, thank you for this sign, I'm listening, and listen, right? You may not get an answer right away, and that's okay. The point is that you're showing up for your body differently now. You're staying instead of silencing your body, and that is building trust. Then we want to anchor. So this is about believing yourself, believing your body, even if no one else does. So you can say, I feel this. This symptom is real, or this emotion is valid. It's okay for me to feel this. Or this hurts, and I trust that matters. These are micro truths. And they don't have to be dramatic. They just need to be honest. So when you string enough of those together, over time, you build a new internal narrative that says that you don't have to be perfect to be trustworthy. You just have to be present. And that is how you reclaim your trust with your body. Try this once a day this week, especially if you have been feeling like something is off in your body lately, or when that self-doubt spiral has started flaring up more and more. You don't have to do it perfectly. Just keep showing up day after day Because healing is not about flipping a switch. It is about taking those small, repeated, consistent steps towards that self relationship. And the more that you engage with your body like it's worth listening to, the more it will speak to you. And the more that you remember you were never crazy, you were just unheard. So let's talk about something that can feel empowering and terrifying when you've been gaslit. And that is finding care again, finding another provider. Because even if you want to try again, even if you need to see someone, you might feel like your body flinches at the thought. You remember the tone, you remember the rushed answers, the way you felt smaller and smaller and smaller the longer that you sat there. And now you're trying to do something brave and advocate for yourself without abandoning yourself. So let me help you make that a bit more doable. I want to start by telling you that you are not difficult for needing to feel safe. And you're not dramatic for wanting to be seen as a whole human. And you're not high maintenance. You are asking real questions about your body that deserve to be answered. So here's how we approach vetting new providers without overriding your own nervous system. So the first is to look for signs of trauma-informed care. You don't need a provider who's perfect. None of them are. No one has all of the answers. I promise you that. You need one who respects your lived experience. And that means that they don't treat you like a lab report. They treat you like a human being. They ask you about your stress levels. They care about your story, not just your symptoms, because those can play into an illness. And it has to do with validating you and your experiences. They don't act like they know your body better than you. And here are some green flags to notice during your appointments. If they make space for your full story without interrupting. They're asking open-ended questions, not just yes/no checkboxes. They validate your concerns instead of rushing to explain them away. And they invite collaboration and offer options rather than giving you one track or giving you ultimatums. They'll say things like, let's figure this out together, or that makes sense. So when you've spent years disconnected from your body, or you are taught to doubt what it's saying to you, rebuilding that inner knowing requires more than insight. It requires that practice, right? That consistent, embodied practice, that presence. And I'm going to give you a few tools that are grounded in neuroscience and somatic psychology, which are designed to rewire your brain, how it perceives internal signals and how it responds to the stress response, so that your body starts to feel like a reliable source of information again. So first we have interoception. So interoceptive anchoring, more specifically, and this technique supports reconnection to your body's internal signals, which is often disrupted by trauma and chronic stress. So you can try this by sitting or lying in a really quiet space and bringing your awareness to your breath, to your heartbeat, to your digestion, whichever is easiest for you to notice first. And just lie or sit with that sensation for 60 seconds and just track it, right? Earlier we talked about assessing the body in a way where we are noticing, not hyperfixating or obsessing or, worrying over what we're feeling. This is a moment like that where you just want to notice it. And this helps your brain reclassify those internal sensations as something that is safe. And over time, it reduces your hypersensitivity and increases trust in your body's cues. Now, movement is something that activates what we call proprioception, and it gives the brain real-time information about safety. So little micro movements can help solidify that trust in your body again. So when you feel like you're spiraling, or you feel like these overwhelming thoughts are just overtaking you physically and mentally, try to gently roll your shoulders forward and back. Or you can wiggle your fingers and toes. Or you can rock forwards and backwards. All of these micro movements, again, activate parts of our brain to give it real feedback. And then you ask your body, well, what feels different now? Now that I've done this micro movement for 60 seconds, even if it's a subtle change, what is that difference? Maybe you notice your shoulders have softened. Maybe you notice more contact with the floor or with the chair that you're sitting on. All of this tells your brain and your body that you are here, you are alive, and you are capable of change and healing. And then this is really, really important for focusing on how responses feel in your body, for focusing on what symptoms really mean. So this is a sensory exercise where you tune into what's going on. This practice helps you distinguish between a yes and a no. So think of a clear yes. Maybe it's your favorite food, maybe it's a safe person, maybe it's your name. Notice how your body responds. And then think of a clear no. Maybe it's something you don't like to do. Maybe it's something someone said to you that was, less than ideal. Compare those two sensations in your body separately. And over time, using these contrasted feelings, you can use these to guide your choices and to listen to your body more, right? Especially when logic and intuition feel at odds. When your brain and your body don't feel like they're correlating with one another. When they feel like they're at war, they're disconnected. They're not sending proper signals or messages. And this retrains your system to recognize and to honor those somatic boundaries, which again reinforces and rebuilds that internal trust. And then we can do tactile feedback looping. So tactile input is one of the fastest ways to regulate your nervous system, especially when delivered in a predictable, rhythmic way. So you can lightly tap on your arms or your legs with your hands in a steady rhythm. You can do the butterfly taps where you cross your arms over your chest and you tap one hand on one shoulder and then tap another hand on the other shoulder and alternate. And you can track your body's responses as you continue through these exercises. And notice what changes come up. Do you feel warmer? Do you feel cooler? Do you feel more relaxed? Do you feel more grounded? Do you feel more alert? Do you feel sleepy? Are you yawning? Do you feel heavier and weighed down? And again, we're creating a feedback loop. That safe input goes into the body. It interprets it as safe, and then we have safe output. And each of these tools that we've discussed supports nervous system regulation through a bottom-up approach. And that means that you're not trying to think your way into safety. You are signaling it directly through the body. And the more that your nervous system receives these cues, the more it learns, hey, I can trust what I feel. My body isn't the enemy, it is actually the informant. So I do want to say one more time, you are not imagining your pain. You are not making up your symptoms. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive, too complicated. You are a human being who has been through a lot in a system that often doesn't know how to honor complexity and chronic illnesses. But your body has been speaking all along, and it's still speaking to you now. And I want you to understand that your body isn't betraying you. The system is probably the problem, right? The system is likely what's betraying you. But you have been doing the best that you can in a world that wasn't built to listen. And now it's time to come home to your body in a very slow and gentle way. So if you are looking for a community that allows you to do that, that welcomes you, that is understanding of the experiences that you've been through, we do invite you to join the Garden, which is a community for co-regulation, for nervous system regulation, ongoing support with chronic illness, and to also explore our nervous system healing code. So if you are ready for a trauma-informed path back to trust and energy and back to your body's innate wisdom, that is where you want to go. And both of these are going to be linked down below. And if you would like a daily reset for when you feel disconnected or when you feel dismissed, check out our EFT videos on our YouTube. They are wonderful for rewiring your nervous system and your brain. And we essentially acknowledge self-limiting beliefs, things that might be holding you back, and gently reframe them in a way that is safe and comforting. So I hope this has been beneficial for you, and we will see you next week.